German economist Dr. Hans-Werner Sinn has said that Greece is undergoing what amounts to an IMF austerity package, but without the IMF cure of debt restructuring or devaluation that is usual for a country with a spiraling public debt and a chronic loss of competitiveness. In Bob Chapman's bi-weekly financial newsletter, The International Forecaster, I read that there's a strong suspicion that the real objective is to bail out North European banks with heavy exposure to Southern Europe rather than help Greece. To find out if this is the case, we are joined by Bob Chapman.
Hans-Werner Sinn is correct. He's also the head of the IFO Institute in München. And his comment, if I remember correctly, was this tragedy does not have a solution, and because they're going at it incorrectly. And this not only is the Greek country, the government, that has this problem. You have the other four countries in Europe that have a similar problem, and you have England and the United States just as similar, and then you have all the states in the United States practically have the same problem. And the only way that's going to be solved is, in this case, with Greece, is number one, is to get rid of the euro. Number two is default on all or part of their debt. Number three is go to the drachma and make sure it's priced on a low enough basis to make goods and services from Greece very attractive to others. And yes, there has to be austerity, but you don't do it in 6 months and destroy the economy of the country. You do it over 3 or 4 years. And if your creditors don't like it, they can take a hike.
The Greek people, on the other hand, have been told that returning to the drachma would be disastrous for Greece. Could you explain your premise further?
It would be a cheaper currency, and it would be a way to evolve. The euro is too expensive for the Greek country. The reason why is they don't have the productivity increases that many other countries have had, and unless they're able to accomplish that in years to come, they're at a great disadvantage. I mean, they're way, way behind Germany as an example, although everybody's behind Germany in productivity increases. They're way behind, and they can't catch up. And the only way they can do that is to cheapen their currency. They don't need to be in the Eurozone. They belong to the European Union with 26 other countries, 11 of which are not in the Eurozone, and they seem to be doing okay, so to speak. And so I think leaving the euro is an absolute must. The stark facts have got to be faced. I mean, look at the second quarter. Public consumption declined 8.4%. Consumption privately fell 4.2%. GDP, gross domestic product, fell 3.7%. You can't have that kind of a shock treatment in a country and expect it to survive. The IMF is only interested in the IMF. The IMF was formed in order to help countries that had problems like Greece has. And they go in and they lend them money and try to get them straightened out. The problem is they bring in austerity, which compounds the problem. We can understand austerity, but not over a 6-month period where they've taken debt to GDP from 14.6% to 8.6% in 4 months. You can't do that. It freezes the economy. You have to do it over a longer period of time. Nobody likes austerity, but you have to do it. And then what the IMF wants to do by implementing austerity over a longer period of time is really to control the country. They really take their sovereignty away from them when they lend them money. And that's not good. If you notice, all the countries in South America, they paid off all their IMF loans, because with IMF money comes IMF control. And then the next step after that is they start dictating to these countries and telling them, now, these are the things that you're going to be buying, and so we want you to buy from such and such a company because they happen to be in one of the countries that's giving the money, large amounts of money, to the IMF, like the United States, Great Britain, whatever, and you're going to do business with them. In the final analysis, it's a capturing or a control of the country on 2 levels. Number one, through control of the country itself, and austerity is part of that. Number two, directing business from that country to certain other countries' companies.
Now, in your publication and in recent interviews, you have said that you have information that Greece may be on the edge of a people's coup or revolution by the end of September. Could you tell us more?
Yes, I had a subscriber write to me and said that his brother went to a wedding, and I won't give the location out, and very, very substantial people were there, and said that from September 20th through the end of the month that they expected a coup in Greece. And I know because I talked to somebody at the American Embassy in Athens, and they told me they were on alert because they were afraid something like that might happen.
And they're talking about a people's coup.
That's right. Now, what that amounts to, I don't know. I certainly hope it's bloodless. As I've said on other broadcasts here in Athens, I've said that there has to be some kind of a legal way to get rid of the government because they're not doing the right thing for the Greek people.
Having been the largest gold and silver stockbroker from 1960 to 1988, you have long since been an advocate of owning physical gold and silver bullion, if not for long-term profit, then as a hedge against inflation. The inflation rate now in Greece stands at 5.5%. Do you believe the acquisition of gold and silver assets would be a smart move for the average household in Greece?
Absolutely. And, they can buy small silver or gold bullion bars, or they can buy coins. And I think that's a very good thing to do at all times because all the currencies in the world are fiat currencies. They have no backing of any kind. Now, the situation eventually, historically, has always been that fiat currencies fail. No, there's no time limit. Sometimes it takes 100 years, and sometimes it takes 2 or 3 years. The euro is about 7% backed by gold. It was 15%, but the European Central Bank joined in with the United States in manipulating gold prices. If you take gold prices on official inflation from the United States government from 1980 when gold was $850 to today, they say that gold, with their own figures, should be selling for $2,400 an ounce. Well, why isn't it? It isn't because the U.S. Treasury, the privately owned Federal Reserve, the privately owned Bank of England, and other central banks have been manipulating the gold and silver prices since 1988, and actually they started in 1967 illegally. From 1988 on in the United States it was legal under executive order by Ronald Reagan called the President's Working Group on Financial Markets. And so the answer to the question is yes, and that's going on all over the world right now. And so there's nothing new. Gold has been going up over 15% per year against the dollar for the last 10 years. And there is no other investment in the world over that period of time that has even come close to making those kind of returns.
It's said that the acquisition of gold and silver bullion and coins by the average person helps to break a corrupt financial system. Is this the case?
It is, because gold is real money. It has been for 6,000 years. And no civilization knows that any better than Greece does because of all the wars they went through over the last 4,000 years. And so gold and silver have always been the final common denominator in financial and monetary matters. And all the currencies that have been created in time have all gone and collapsed. I mean, even the British pound collapsed in the 1930s. They had to go off the gold standard because their finances were so corrupted. In fact, they didn't even honor the pounds outside their own colonies and their homeland, which is the United Kingdom. People throughout the world get stuck with pounds, so they couldn't get rid of them.
Do you think
it's too bad everybody doesn't have the opportunity to read monetary and financial history. Then they really understand how governments really take advantage of people. And it's not only governments, it's people behind the scenes, particularly in the financial theater of the world, who understand these things like I do and take advantage of them. They don't get on the radio and tell people the truth like I do. They have a great desire to accumulate wealth. Well, I don't. I'm 75 years old, and where I'm going, they don't use